Hello, beautiful homemakers. Today we are going to finish Chapter 5 of Secrets of Fascinating Womanhood. I'm going to read the last sentence of where we left off. A man's greatest pleasure is when his masculinity is admired by a woman. His greatest pain is when his masculinity is belittled by a woman. The Pandora's Box Reaction. Now, before we close tonight, I need to forewarn you about a surprising reaction that can occur in your husband when you live the first two secrets of FW. It is especially likely when he has built a wall of silence around him. It's called the Pandora's Box Reaction. This is an unexpected outburst of angry feelings toward you. Angry feelings that he has bottled up for years. Don't be shocked. Be glad if this happens. Even encourage it to happen. Why? Because it means that he now feels safe to release his resentment. It means he does not need to keep it bottled up anymore. It's the beginning of him confiding in you. Above all, do not argue back. Just sit down and take it. Even agree with him. For when Pandora's box is empty, he will have a wonderful feeling of relief. The resentment locked up in his heart is now gone. His heart can now fill with so much love and tenderness for you that you will scarcely believe it possible. His wall of silence will vanish at the same time. Provided you continue to live the principles of FW, he will continue feeling safe and confiding in you. This will be the foundation of a beautiful, trusting relationship. Now, it has been a longer than normal session tonight, but a very, very important one. I'll hand you out this week's assignments, and then we'll hear from our two guests. Assignments. Secret number 2. Assignment 1. Praise one of your husband's masculine qualities before he goes to sleep tonight. Watch for his smile. Assignment 2. By asking questions that require long, thoughtful answers and giving admiration, try and have your husband talk to you about a past achievement or a future dream for at least 5 minutes. Be openly attentive and do not interrupt him with your own thoughts as he speaks. Assignment 3. Every second day, sincerely tell your husband how much you admire him for one of his virtues that you listed as part of last week's assignment. Touch him and smile as you do so. Continue doing this until you have praised him sincerely for all the virtues you have listed. Angela, as you are not living with your husband, we can excuse you from this week's assignments, at least for a little while. But all of you who have not yet completed last week's assignments, please do them as soon as you can. They are the foundation of fascinating womanhood. Don't tell your husband what your assignments are. Just do them. They are far more effective that way. Now, Rosalind, would you come up and speak to us first? And then Donna will share her experience with us. Rosalind, a true experience. I first became acquainted with fascinating womanhood about 4 years ago through my sister. I was skeptical at first, but finally I was able to set aside my overgrown pride and ask the Lord to help me in a last desperate attempt to save a failing marriage. It wasn't easy at first. I wondered how I could have been guilty of so many wrong attitudes, and that female pride kept sneaking back. I put the teachings into practice. I was so frightened. All I could do was to pray for the courage that I seemed to lack. He was about 3 hours late coming home, but I didn't, as usual, question him or complain. I simply said, "I know you must have had a hard day, honey. You deserve some time away from everything. I kept your meal warm, so I'll bring it right to you." Suddenly an expression of confused pleasure came over his tired face. After he finished eating, I curled up by his feet on the floor and began, "Honey, I want you to know that I appreciate you for the strong man that you are. And I realize that you must say no to me once in a while for the good of both of us, and I really respect you for it." I had been begging, pleading, and crying for a new outfit I'd seen but couldn't have. "I couldn't feel safe or secure with someone who let me push him around. I just want you to know I love you as you are, and wouldn't change a single thing about you." Well, I can't even begin to describe the expression that came over his face. I only know it was one with deep warmth and love for me. Then he pulled me close to him and held me for a long time. He actually wept, and I wept with him out of the happiness for the moment of real hope for the future. The next day he came in acting rather strange and with a big box. And do you know what he had done? He had gone shopping and bought a complete outfit for me and both of the children. It was all there, from shoes to hats. I just couldn't believe it. Now it was my turn for tears. I knew that I was on my way to being a fascinating woman. That was 4 years ago. He still surprises me with flowers or some little token of his love, and I still shed a tear or two. He says it makes him feel great to know he can make me happy. Our marriage is indestructible. Fascinating womanhood is absolutely beautiful and never stops snowballing into something bigger and better every day. Donna, a true experience. My husband and I had been married 13 years, most of them unhappy. We had separated 3 times, and I had decided to leave him for the last time. I had given up on him. About this time, a friend of mine told me about FW and encouraged me to take the class. I told her that nothing could be done for that stubborn husband of mine, and I might as well give up, but she begged me to take it. By then we had already separated. I was worse than miserable. A numbness went through me. After the first class, I prayed as I had never prayed before. I prayed that my husband would want to see me and talk to me. He did. I decided to take him back, but I was afraid. How was I to know it was going to work? At the next class, the teacher told us to compliment our husband on his manliness, muscles, etc. I didn't think I could bring myself to say something like that. Finally, just before the next class, I knew I had to do something because the teacher would ask me about it. So I waited until we were in bed and the lights were out. I thought I would faint. Finally, I told him what beautiful muscles he had, and as soon as I said it, he took me in his arms and kissed me over and over. This is when our new marriage began. I was told not to expect material rewards, but a happy marriage. I received both. Some of the things my husband has bought me without asking are a beautiful nightie, a typewriter, a trip to Hawaii, a new stove, table and chairs, bedroom carpeting, perfume, and flowers. The teacher wiped tears from her eyes as she thanked Donna and Rosalind for coming along tonight. These are not isolated experiences, class. All of you can have similar beautiful experiences. Remember, admiration is your husband's lifeblood, just as tender romantic experiences are a woman's lifeblood. Before we say goodnight, can I suggest that you start a love book? A love book is a little pink or red notebook in which you write all the tender romantic things your husband says to you as you live FW. I have one, and I've kept it for years. It's the most priceless treasure I own. Angela felt excited as she drove home. It was all starting to come clear to her now. Ted had been starved of admiration for years. She now felt real hope. Deep down inside, she felt that everything could turn out fine. Before going to bed that night, Angela wrote Ted a note of acceptance to complete her assignment for last week. Dear Ted, I have had a lot of time to think since you have been gone. I have not appreciated you in the past, and I have made some silly mistakes. I am sorry, and I am glad you have not let me push you around. I am glad you are the kind of man you are. If you give me another chance, I promise I will be a wonderful wife to you. Love, Angela. It was difficult and humbling for Angela to write these words. She had felt her heart beating fast as she wrote. She wondered if she had used the right words and whether she could live up to them. However, after several rewrites, she finally felt satisfied with what she had written. She put the note in an envelope and took it outside and put it in her car so she would not forget it tomorrow. Then she went to bed. But she was so stimulated by tonight's lesson and the writing of her note to Ted that it was a long time before sleep came. Angela awoke the next morning after a vivid dream that Ted was alongside her in the bed. She was brought back to reality when she opened her eyes and saw Tiffany's long blonde hair on the pillow beside her. Today, Angela did not feel at all confident about taking the note to Ted. However, as she had firmly decided last night that she would take it to him after school this afternoon, she would see it through. Angela was so anxious all morning as she taught her class that she developed a tension headache. At lunchtime, she did not feel hungry, so decided to take the note to Ted during her lunch break and get it over with. She drove to his workshop and saw his van parked outside. She had been half hoping he wouldn't be there. Her heart pounded as she walked into the work bay. The area was full of cars, but there was no sign of anybody. His apprentice is probably out to lunch, she thought, but Ted should be here. Then she heard voices coming from Ted's small office. She glanced through the open door. Yes, Ted was in there, standing talking with a customer wearing a business suit. Ted saw Angela but ignored her. He looked flustered and closed the office door. Angela was undecided what to do next, so she waited. It soon became obvious from the tone of the customer's voice that he was highly displeased with Ted. Angela overheard snatches of his words. "Paid for that last month. Sloppy account system. Sort this mess out. Not paying until." Then the door opened and the customer strode out of the workshop. Ted came out also, looking grim and cold-eyed. "What do you want?" he said harshly to Angela. Angela felt shattered. It was hard to breathe. Tears welled up. She couldn't trust herself to speak, and just held out the envelope. Ted took it. "What's this?" he said, glaring at her. "Please read it later," she said, her voice breaking. Then she hurried back out to her car. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the seatbelt and drove off. She did not dare look back. The tears came again that evening when Amy phoned and Angela told her what had happened. "It's no good, Amy. He's worse than ever. He'll never change. And now he'll think I'm stupid writing him a note like that." Amy was comforting. "It was just bad timing, Angie. Can't you see how terribly his pride was hurt? You saw and heard him being humiliated by that customer. You could not have arrived at a worse time. I tell you what, Angie, our car is nearly due for a warrant of fitness. Bill would want Ted to do it. I'll go and book it in tomorrow and see how he is." The next morning Amy put on an attractive white dress with feminine frills that she had made herself and drove her car to Ted's workshop. "Where can I find Ted?" she asked the apprentice, who was lying underneath one of the cars. "He's in the office over there," he said, indicating with his head. Amy saw Ted sitting in front of a small laptop computer on a desk covered with papers. He had a worried look on his face. "Hi, Ted," she said airily. Ted looked up at the start. "Oh, hello, Amy. I didn't expect to see you here. What do you think? I've just bought this new computer to do my accounts." "Wow," she said, smiling. "Can you work one of those things? You men have such good minds for computers." "Oh, there's nothing to it," said Ted, brightening. "Just a matter of following the instructions." "Hey, this is a nice place you've got here, Ted. Clean, painted floors, and look at all the cars you've got to work on. You must be doing a good job." Ted's worried face broke into a broad smile. "Well, yes, we always try to do a good job. Do it once, do it right. That's my motto." "Bill would like you to give our car a warrant of fitness check, Ted. Can I book it in?" "Well, I'm booked up until the end of next week, but for an attractive customer like you, Amy, I can do it right now while you wait, if you like." "Oh, thank you, Ted," said Amy, giving him a big smile. "That's kind of you." Ted blushed. Amy remembered how he often blushed as a young man. She also noticed that he whistled as he checked her car. This was the same Ted she had always known. His reddish-brown hair had receded a little and was starting to gray around the temples, but he was still the same Ted inside. Amy spoke to the apprentice while she waited. "What's it like working for Ted?" "He's a good mechanic, knows his stuff. So you know him?" "Yes, I went to school with him. How do you find him?" "He's a good boss, though he's not the same since he broke up with his missus. Bit moody most of the time. Seems happy enough now, though. You must have cheered him up. Haven't heard him whistle for months." "Perhaps you could remind him from time to time what a good mechanic he is." Ted was still whistling as Amy drove away 20 minutes later. And that is the end of Chapter 5. Don't forget to do your assignments. Bye.